I talked to Steve Jobs. I never met him. He called me 3 times. The first time was just to tell me that there was something I'd written that pleased him, that he liked. The second time was to invite me to tour the Pixar facility because he wanted me to write a Pixar film for him. And the final time was he had been asked to deliver the commencement address at Stanford University, and he asked me to help him with that. Any idea that I would be writing about him. He had passed away by the time I signed up to do this, but I did meet with all the other characters who were represented in the movie and a few dozen after that. Steve was only ever kind to me. I never saw the side of Steve that people who worked for him saw. I never saw the gruff side of Steve. He was only ever kind to me. It did. The most difficult thing for me to get past, because I'm the father of a daughter, the most difficult thing for me to get past was his relationship, was the way he treated his eldest daughter, Lisa, at first denying paternity of her, and then things got only marginally better after that. The most important research resource that I had was Lisa herself. Lisa did not speak to Walter when he was writing the book because her father was still alive, and she was just concerned about alienating either her father, her mother, her stepmother, but she did speak to me. And so we had many sessions together, and I was struck by 2 things. One, how wonderful Lisa was. You know, in the third act, Andy Hertzfeld, who's played by Michael Stuhlbarg, says there's no reason in the world why this girl shouldn't be robbing banks with the Symbionese Liberation Army, given who raised her, Steve and Chrisann. But he says she's not. She shouldn't be nice, but she is. And that's coming directly from me. She is a very kind, very level-headed, very bright young woman. And when she talks about her father, even when she's telling me a less than flattering story about her father, she will finish and then turn it and say, but you can see how he loved me because of this. You can see his real goodness because of this. And so I followed Lisa into that hole to try to find the goodness in Steve. That's a terribly interesting question. It's knowing nothing about tech myself. It's entirely possible that there'll be a new tech revolution 10, 20, 30 years from now that will render this tech revolution irrelevant. I don't think so, but that's possible. We don't, you know, we say the name Thomas Edison with a certain amount of reverence, but we have come quite a ways from the light bulb. We're doing more complicated things now. So it's possible that history will look back and find that the work that they were doing was nothing more than rudimentary, or it's possible we'll look at them the same way we still look at the astronauts, the Apollo astronauts who landed on the moon, the Mercury astronauts who first went into outer space. We still have reverence for the explorers, right, for Magellan and Columbus and those people. So maybe that's how we'll look at them 50 years from now. I like to have the same relationship to a movie that I've written as I would to a play that I've written. So I'm as involved with casting as I would be with a play. I'm on the set and in rehearsals as much as I would be with a play. I'm very aware of the fact excuse me, that I don't write things that are meant to be read. I write things that are meant to be performed, and so I need to be involved with that as well. Yeah, we had Danny insisted on a play-like rehearsal period, which was going to be something that would cost a lot of money, because what we did was we were in a rehearsal studio in Northern California. The set taped out on the floor, and we rehearsed just the first act. And then we would have run-throughs of the first act, and then shoot just the first act, then shut down for 2 weeks. Shutting down a movie is very expensive because you're still paying everyone you're paying the crew. But we would shut down and we'd rehearse the second act for 2 weeks, shoot the second act, rehearse the third act, and shoot the third act. And that way, the actors, and particularly Michael, only had to concentrate on one hunk at a time. And by doing those run-throughs, they could see, gee, when I do this scene, I've been through all of this, and this is how exhausted I'm going to feel when I do this scene. And it was very helpful for the actors. Again, in particular, Michael, it allowed him to really own the language. What we did was essentially replicate what a play has with a preview period before it opens. You do all your dress rehearsals, and then you have a couple of weeks of previews in front of an audience, which is just about repetition, doing it again and again and again. So the actors own this now, and that's what our rehearsal period was for. It was for getting Michael, Kate, Jeff, Seth, Michael again, Stuhlbarg, Katherine, the whole cast, to just own the language. There was so much language that they had to be able to casualize it. I do believe that. I am not as gifted as Steve Jobs, so I'm not in a position to answer it definitively. But I do believe it. I can't imagine why you couldn't be decent and gifted at the same time. And if it turns out that it is binary, that you can only be one or the other, be decent. Okay? Somebody else will make the phone.